So please give today's speaker a big round of applause, Liane Slaughter.
Have fun.
There's no doubt that I had a head start in education. My parents made it really fun to learn about nature and solve puzzles. One thing my dad and I would do would be to look at the numbers on car license plates and break those numbers down into their prime number factors. Bad traffic was fun. But my family loved learning. They sent me to the best schools they could. I met dedicated teachers who gave me extra opportunities, and by age 17, I was presenting research at statewide science fairs in the US. Fast forward a bit. I earned a PhD in chemistry. Then I went on to a role called a postdoc for 3 years, and then I came to Hong Kong as a senior researcher until the end of 2019. So I achieved a lot early in my career, and some great mentors helped me do that. And I hope that one day I would give those great experiences, being guided by experts, I would one day give that back to people. So let me first share with you about my 3 most influential mentors. First, there was Scott. He was a PhD student when I was working on my bachelor degree. And he showed me that gold particles made of gold, could be purple. Cool. And he showed me what it was like to love your work so much that you would show up at any hour to do it. Not all hours, but any hour that something needed to be done. So he was proactive, and he also accepted mistakes very easily. Like that time he had to send away his laptop for repair because his mentee spilled water all over it. Stefan, my PhD advisor, he showed me that gold particles could be all the colors on my shirt. Super cool. And more importantly, I learned from him how to communicate the value of that in science and the potential value of that to humanity and why it's worth studying. So with that balance of purpose and fascination, I thrived during the PhD, which is a long haul. Then my postdoc advisor, Paul, he was a seasoned professor, connected in his field, and he was eager to support up-and-coming, promising career scientists like myself. So each year I came to Hong Kong, I did that annually to visit family. He connected me with somebody, and that usually led to an invited talk or a conference presentation. So these 3 mentors shared genuine love and sense of purpose for what they were doing, a track record of success in their fields, and desire to support promising individuals. So I had a fabulous foundation for an academic career, and I could see myself being a fantastic mentor. Let's take a look at what actually happened when I began mentoring. First, I'm a PhD student. An undergraduate comes to me. He has ingenuity, personality, he likes theater. He's intelligent, but he's easily distracted. One day, we're working together to prepare a sample to go inside a special microscope. And we're using this electrically conducting tape made for this purpose. And he gets fascinated by the tape. And he asks me, I wonder what it's made of. Can we put it in the microscope and look at it too? And this is like trying to bake a cake together with someone and they want to study the spatulas first. But this is my first shot at mentoring, and I remember the freedom to explore curiosity that I had when I was a bachelor student. And I want to give that back to him. So I say, yeah, okay, while we're here, let's look at the tape as well. So I accommodate, and gradually there's more accommodations, and they start to escalate. And at one point, he just disappears for 2 weeks without warning. And when he gets back, I'm like, oh, hey, nice to have you back. I didn't know you were taking time off. He's like, yeah, I needed to spend time with my girlfriend. She's moving to Denmark for an internship for 3 months. Yeah, you didn't let us know. I'm sorry. Next time I'll let you know. Okay, I'm just glad you're okay. By the way, Liane, I have the lead role in Taming of the Shrew this weekend. Can you come? Yeah, of course, I'll be there. This becomes a not very productive mentoring relationship. It's dysfunctional, but it's masked by friendliness. It's not a complete failure because some custom equipment he designs gets used by our lab for the next 3 years, but I do not feel like I've done much as a mentor. The good news is that it doesn't slow me down. That project he was on, it was a nice to have, but not a must have. So I finished my PhD, and I'm happy enough. I go on to my postdoc. Now I'm Dr. Slaughter. I'm 28 years old. I'm younger than some of the graduate students, and I have scored a golden opportunity. This professor I work for now, he is famous in the field. He's the founder and editor-in-chief of a popular scientific journal, and all around the country, all around the globe, there are fellow PhD graduates like myself lining up to get a postdoc position with this guy, and I have scored. So I go there, ego bigger than the building, and I receive my first mentoring assignment. And I go up to her, and hi, Paul asked me to mentor you, and I saw your presentation yesterday. There's a few things you got wrong about the gold particles, so let's find some time to sit down together, and I'll help you out with that. We do that, and I ask her to join my project. Yes? Okay, great. These are the experiments I want to do first, and let's do them in this order. And she questions me. Well, why not try it like this first? Because, and I'm confused about this. Let's do it this way first. Trust me, I know gold. Okay, Liane, it didn't work. Try again. It didn't work. Try again. I don't have time this week. I have exams next week and I need to lead a review session on Saturday. Okay, Saturday, no problem. What about Sunday? You have time on Sunday? Okay, let's do it on Sunday. I'll be here. If in my first shot at mentoring, I was way too friendly, in this second trial, I've shot in the opposite direction. I'm not trying to squeeze as much as I can out of the people I'm working with, as well as myself. And I don't totally blame myself for acting like this, because a postdoc, it's a time in a research career where you're upgrading your skills and your connections and your leadership. And I'm told, many postdocs are told things like this by our mentors. For example, in your postdoc, you need to be just as productive, if not more, as you were in your PhD in half the time, if not less. Or, if you want a tenure-track academic position, you need to have 3 first author publications by this time next year. So, this is the pressure I'm under. This is the pressure a lot of us are under. And I internalize it. And then it bleeds all over the people around me. And the good news for them is that they can fend for themselves. So this famous professor we work for, he is flying around the world, giving invited speeches, advising governments, etc. So he's a little bit absentee when it comes to being in the lab at home. And if the students find themselves in an alliance that's not working for them, they go and team up with someone else. And that's what happens. Like, no matter how neat our research topic is, if I'm being a terrible person to work with, they're not going to want to work with me. So 2 years into my postdoc, I find myself alone, and I've published nothing. But I still want to do this work. I know it's neat, and I know I need help. And I know my mentoring needs help. So I have to change my ways. Around this time, 3 big lessons hit me. First, I take a look around, and I see, what are other people doing? And, all this talking that people seem to do, that looks like a waste of time. Yeah, and then I realized that, learning about each other. And the next time a student comes, I ask them questions like, what are you interested in? What would you like to learn? What do you think you're good at? What's important to you? And I invite them to the project instead of assigning. And we think together instead of me directing everything. So things start to get a bit easier. And around this time when I feel like I'm failing at being as fabulous as my mentors were, I take a closer look at their lives. One has recently resigned from a leadership role earlier than expected, citing interdepartmental conflict. Another has divorced, 10 hours a week at home isn't enough for their former spouse. And one is recovering from a spontaneous collapse that happened around a busy time of year when there are lots of grant deadlines and conferences, and the doctor found no other explanation than overworking. This is not to say that my mentors were bad at leadership, relationships, or health. It just means that they struggled with all the same things that I do, that all of us do. And the academic career path has a real toll at any phase. The third lesson I learned in this period is mentoring can come from anyone, anywhere. I attend a workshop about team science. Why is it that some teams are more productive than the sum of the parts? What makes that work? After the talk, I meet the guest speaker privately. And she is a research leader at the National Institutes of Health in the US. She has decades of experience doing research around the country. And I confessed to her all of my crimes in mentoring and how lonely and ashamed I feel about them. These are things that I just don't feel like I can say to the people I'm working with every day. And after listening to me for a while, she says to me, "You know what, Liane, you actually seem pretty self-aware." Ah. I imagine she's seen a lot in her career. So I take this comment to mean it's not just me who is fudging up mentoring in academia. And there's hope for me. So from this conversation, I get that I have work to do, I can do it, and there's a tool that can help me. It's a template for a welcome letter that I can customize for each mentee. And in writing, we align on our strategies, goals, and what we can expect of each other. So this one 30-minute conversation changes the way I mentor, changes the way I look at mentoring for good. And I've not seen this person again. So I've had one interaction with them, and it made a huge difference. And that tells me that a mentor can be anyone, whether they're officially my mentor or not. And as a mentor, my mentees can also seek help from anyone. So don't overrate my own importance. So I go back to the lab, I apply all of the lessons I'm learning, and then the gears start to move more smoothly, right? It's like some of the sand is coming out of them. And my 3 years in Los Angeles, they end on a high note, and I secure a fellowship for the role here in Hong Kong. So my first summer in Hong Kong, I'm offered the chance to mentor an undergraduate student. I am excited. But before it even begins, that anguish of the past, it starts to haunt me. Yeah. And I'm feeling unsteady, and I can't mentor like this. I don't want to mess it up again. So I need help. I need to talk to someone. And I remember that my dad took me along to graduation parties and barbecues of his summer interns when I was in high school. So my dad worked at a pharmaceutical company, and each summer he would host 1 or 2 interns from the local university, and they seemed happy with him. So I called him up and went, "Dad, what did you do? What tips do you have for me to start on the right foot?" And I'm expecting, another tool, advice. Maybe he can break down mentoring into its prime factors for me. But you know what he says to me instead? In his typical, plain and gentle way, he just goes, "Well, remember you're connecting with another person." Oh, really? I'm like cycling through like realization, curiosity, and a bit of anger. Like, of course that's obvious. I'm connecting with another person. I'm not mentoring a rat. But underneath that hubris, I know he's right to suggest that there's something really important that I had overlooked often. So I'm a person. They're people. Don't overrate my own importance. The new student comes. I learned that her favorite animal is the sheep. She loves swimming, and there are specific research techniques she wants to learn from us that will support her career aspirations. Fantastic, it's great to know. I find effective ways to communicate with her, and she learns a few new communication skills too, like how to use a landline phone. We pitch each other ideas, and instead of being defensive when she has questions or is confused, I embrace the fact that her mind is not weighed down by the same baggage that occupies mine. So we do lots of dialogue, especially early on, aligning on what is it we're doing, what are the strategies, and each step of the way we realign. Of course, we take our time to ourselves to figure things out and come up with our own ideas too. And if we ever really get stuck, we leave the lab and go hash it out over cheesecake. So this interpersonal legwork that we do up front and throughout our collaboration, I really believe that it saves us maybe some weeks over the year of our collaboration together. Because a lot of times in research, when a lot of things are uncertain, it's really easy for somebody to deviate off course, maybe due to misunderstanding, or if the interpersonal connection isn't great, then there could be discomfort or avoidance. Somebody doesn't want to approach the other one. But that doesn't happen to us. And the results surprise us. See, before this student came and started working with me, I heard from her previous mentor. And her previous mentor said to me, "This is an obedient student. She'll do whatever you say, but don't expect too much from her." Instead, because we created that container of connection, our problem-solving ideas and creativity flowed into it, mixed, and our project took on a way more feasible and meaningful direction than it would have if she had just done what I said. She presents her research at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, and it's very successful. She earns accolades, and we hear compliments from other professors. Finally, I've gotten something right. I'm more connected, I'm more committed, and both of us have grown and stretched our capacities. Altogether, it takes me about 7 years to get on the right track with mentoring, about as long as a PhD. And like a PhD, trying, failing, learning, failing, trying, learning, succeeding, learning, learning, learning. And you know how I knew I really got something right? In 2020, by 2020, I've left the lab. And 2020 is happening around the world. And it's not just me who has left the lab. All of my former mentees on my project are also scattered about Hong Kong, the US, and Europe. And we have a manuscript together that is out for peer review. That means that there are people in our field who are evaluating our work and deciding whether or not it should be published in a specific scientific journal. Actually, by now it's been rejected by 4 journals, and we're on the 5th one. And they say, yes, we'll publish it, but we need you to revise it like this. Okay. Now I need the help from my team to get those revisions done. And what could happen for a person in my position, with the rest of the team having moved on, someone like me could take on all of the work. Understandably, people have moved on, they have other priorities, they're working on their PhDs, they have jobs. The work we're doing to get this thing published doesn't have any financial payoff. So I easily could have been doing it alone or pulling teeth if I really needed something from someone. I asked for help. We're busy communicating across 12 time zones, and it gets done by the deadline. Minimal headache. So we were aligned, motivated, and the work flowed beautifully. So it might sound simple now, that a mentor is a human who supports another human. A mentor listens, understands the mentee, and more importantly, helps the mentee understand themselves. So that might sound simple, but if you ever find yourself struggling to be the good mentor you want to be, know that you're not alone. And I hope you try anyway. Because when I figured out how to view mentoring through the lens of connection and service rather than achievement, it became the most gratifying thing I do for others and for myself. Thank you.
The floor is open for some questions.
Thanks, Liane. Do you think that you talk about mentoring in a structured manner. Do you think that mentoring can be in an osmosis where, for me, all my mentors are people I've looked up to, and one particular person, I used to just watch him work. And when I watched him work, it inspired me. We knew each other, but I never really saw him as a mentor at the time. But now I look back on my career and I say, wow, I learned a lot from him. Do you think mentoring is an osmosis as well?
I think it can take on any medium, any mode that works. Yeah, as long as it's supportive and there's learning, why not? Yeah, I didn't want to keep you here all day, but I definitely learned a lot just by watching what my mentors are doing, for better and for worse, right? Like, watching Scott and like how dedicated he was and how he, might show up at 6 a.m. to start something, but then, go do other things throughout the day and then come back at 6 p.m. to finish that reaction. Seeing others do that made a difference to me. Yeah, but also, seeing my postdoc advisor like travel around the world, stop in Switzerland on his way from, I don't know, Paris to Dubai. No, that's not extreme. No, he did something more extreme, like stop in Boston on the way from Singapore to Hong Kong or something like that. Yeah, like thinking that, okay, that's the career I want, that also backfired a little bit. So yeah, I think a healthy dose of like seeing what other people's do to get inspiration, right? Like I was looking around in my group when I was like really sucking at mentoring and being like, okay, what are other people doing that's working? That's, in a way, it's indirect mentoring until I go up to them like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, so there's many ways, and we all have to find our own.
So Liane, kudos to you. I don't sense any hubris from you at all. So I think that you talk a lot about the chemistry between the mentor and the mentee, and obviously those who came before you and those who you are mentoring. There's a lot of chemistry in human interaction. But what about chemistry, your subject, your topic of study, which you're so entrenched in? What kind of magical things have you seen that has taught you so much? I mean, really miraculous, right? Because it's inanimate, it's organic and not inanimate.
Literally, chemistry can be organic.
Yeah, it's organic, not inert.
Where do I start with that question? Well, first there was the fascination. There's the fascination with the gold particles. So I studied gold nanoparticles. Yes, and to give you an idea of what size of gold we were studying, so take the width of your hair, like how thick is your hair. The nanoparticles we were studying are 1,000 times smaller than the width of your hair. So at that size scale, things got a little bit weird. Hence, some of those particles could be different colors. Like really, they were red, purple, blue, green. So just visually, that's fascinating. And then we learned that, okay, why are they those colors? What's going on there? And we learned, okay, some of them are, it's all about how they're interacting with light. And some of them are bouncing off certain colors of light. Some of them are taking the light and turning it into heat. Okay, so once we know that, then we figure out things like, that's useful because if we want to, so one really fun thing about gold is that it's really easy to attach other molecules to gold, like antibodies. So our rat tests, that red line, gold nanoparticles. Yeah. Yeah, actually, we've all seen it. We have all seen it. In 2025, we have all seen gold nanoparticles in action. Yeah, so gold chemistry has that magic, and you can use it to visualize different things. You can attach it to certain proteins on cells. You can use it to label certain kinds of things you're looking for. Another thing that researchers have learned is that the particles, they can heat up like really intensely in a very small area. And that has been developed into a cancer treatment that's more targeted and less invasive than, or I wouldn't say less invasive, but more targeted than something like chemo that goes through all throughout the body. If you know where it is, you can put your gold particles there and then interact that with light and have a localized treatment. So these are just a few of the applications that we've learned about gold particles over the decades. Does that help?
It's not a helping, it's just a revelatory thing that you're sharing with us. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tim. Just
Hi,
want to say
Tim.
thank you so much for sharing and being so open and quite vulnerable about your story as well there.
It sounds like you've learned a lot about mentorship through doing it so often and making those mistakes and kind of refining your process. But I'm curious if someone, maybe because I'm younger in my career, if you're looking for a mentor, what would you kind of suggest to look out for when you're reaching out? You talk about that kind of chemistry piece. And also, like, are you ever going to take on another mentor, not just another mentee? Is that something you'd like to do with the rest of your career and life?
Thanks, Tim. So there's two questions there, right? If I'm looking for a mentor, if one is looking for a mentor, what do you look out for? And then, am I ever going to take on another mentor? Can I answer the first one first? Because it relates to the second one. I'm always being mentored. Maybe not officially, but there are always people in the room that I can learn from. For me these days, it starts with being curious. Like, what path have you been on? Asking the same questions back. Like, what path have you been on? What did you learn from that? Or what made you make the career change, or whatever decision that seems fascinating for us to talk about at the time. And if I'm looking for a mentor, then first get interested in the person. Then it has to be a two-way street, right? Like, then it's my turn to share. Here's where I've been, and here's what I'm struggling with right now. Do you have any ideas about that? And that can be anyone. Yeah. Does that help with your first question?
Yep.
Of what to look out for?
Yeah, it sounds like it relates a lot to just opening up and kind of sharing your story and getting that like personal connection, as well as wherever you want to go professionally or whatever the issue is.
Yeah, so I think the main thing to look out for is, what's going on in here? What's going on in myself? If I'm speaking to someone who I might potentially view as a mentor, is there something that's making me uncomfortable? Is there something that feels directive? Is there something that feels like I'm not being heard? Right? And take a look at that. Like, why do I feel that way? Is it coming from me, or is there actually something that they said, or do they have some motive that may not be in my best interest to take to heart? That being said, it's always our own responsibility to look out for our best interest. It's never the mentor's responsibility, although sometimes in academia it might look differently.
Then the second question, are you on the lookout for a mentor yourself?
Always.
So when you started the story, you talked about the first experience where you were too friendly, and the second experience where you were more directive towards your mentee. How do you meet a middle ground in between where you're not being too friendly and not too strict about it? Yeah. How do you do that?
I think when we really see someone as a person, see them as equal, like you're equally capable of doing what I'm capable of doing, equally capable of learning what I'm capable of learning. We might just be different in terms of like how long we've been at this one particular thing, but otherwise we're equal. Yeah? So with that in mind, and treat them as a counterpart that I respect. So, like everyone, they want autonomy. They want choice. So even if, here's a project that I've outlined, it's like, I keep it an invitation. Like, is this what you want to work on? And if, here's a way we could do it, what do you think about that? To keep them involved. And so I guess one is friendly. It's friendly, but it's inviting. It's friendly and inviting. And then at some point, you're talking about finding that balance between friendly and directive. At some point, one does have to take ownership about what one is responsible for. Here's my stake in the project, and I need to communicate that very clearly. Here's why we need to go that direction now. Here's what's at stake. So I can do my best to communicate that, and that's why, we can't deviate right now. What do you think about that? And they always have the choice, instead of, it's like speaking one's own truth. Like, here's what I need. Here's the boundary. Does that work for you? And if not, then it's okay. It's a professional decision to work together or not.
I have another question. Does a mentorship need to be goal oriented? Like, you have something to achieve, and you and the mentee work together to achieve that, or is it like more open ended or like?
Some of each. It depends. Yeah, I guess. There's something I think each of us wants something out of a relationship, right? Like, I'd like to learn something, or I like being around you, or, I think there's something inspiring, or, something positive that I can absorb by osmosis. And exactly what that is might not be clear from the beginning, but maybe at some point, a clear ask does emerge.
Mentoring comes in many forms. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for
You gotta ask to say it.
Okay.
And I want to bring over Nick, and he made another little piece of art just for our speaker today. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
So I took the theme of mentor and imagined all of the mentees that you would coach through and the possible careers that they could have, especially in Hong Kong, like reef conservation or like bridge building, engineering, that type of thing. And then the gold color is because originally I was thinking, I could just take a PhD topic and I'll visualize it. And then I read the abstract and I realized I don't know how to visualize it. But it has something to do with gold, so there we go.
It's beautiful. I love it.